Hello, this is your host, April Pride, and it is 4/20, April 20th, 2025. And today's episode is appropriate for today's date. It's also Easter. Happy Easter. I encourage you all to check out my Substack today that explains the intersection of Easter and 4/20. I'll give you a hint. It may have something to do with spring and rebirth. If you have not subscribed to my Substack, please do. It's aprilpride.substack.com. The episode that follows, I'm in conversation with Esther Lenore Ramirez, who is the CEO and co-founder of Session Goods, which is an incredible glass accessories company. My favorite bong. I've had for 7 years. Surprisingly, it is still in one piece, so I hopefully didn't just jinx it. And I have a lot of respect for what Esther has built and the role that her critical eye and creativity has played in elevating our experiences with cannabis, thanks to having beautiful accessories. So enjoy this conversation. Enjoy your 4/20. If you are finding time with friends to share in cannabis in some way, I am with you in spirit. I am physically in Oakland at the Oakland Psychedelics Conference, and they've merged with Spirituality and Beyond Conference, which is in its 5th year. So I am having a 4/20 and Easter like no other. Have a great week and tune in on Thursdays when our podcast will start dropping again in that schedule. I wanted to make sure that we took advantage of this amazing weekend with 4/19 Bicycle Day. You heard yesterday's bonus episode, and then today, of course, 4/20. So we'll be back on Thursday. Hey, this is April. And this show, SetSet, discusses cannabis, psychedelics, and altered states of consciousness generally. It's intended for audiences 21 and over. Also, I am not a medical expert. If you are looking to engage with psychedelic substances, please consult your physician before doing so.
My name is Esther Lenore Ramirez. I'm the CEO and a co-founder at Session Goods. We are a modern, minimal cannabis accessory company creating proprietary products that feel more like home goods than paraphernalia. Prior to creating my own line of accessories, I co-founded an online head shop which retailed other people's accessories.
When Bilibee, an online retailer of cannabis accessories out of San Francisco, launched, you were retailing other people's goods. What was coming through the door when you decided, I don't think there's a solution here that really works for me, and I want to figure this out? What were you seeing that made you feel like you could improve upon the goods that were out there?
I think for me, at the time, I had everything. And this is like working at Bilibee and testing the products to see what we would carry. We kept everything in-house and fulfilling from a warehouse within our office. I discovered that I loved smoking out of a bong. It was my preferred method, which I found surprising. Historically, it was hard for me to get the mechanics right. All experiences had been bad, like dirty bong water. It just was not my cup of tea. And then going through it and coming back into cannabis later in life was like, this is actually quite nice on my lungs. And my first pieces, and probably the most photographed pieces at my time at Bilibee in terms of bongs, were all Grav Labs pieces. I appreciated that at the time their logos were slightly smaller, but I previously had come from the D2C startup Everlane, and at Everlane we wouldn't put any of our logos on things. So it was this idea of, I don't necessarily want to have this big logo branded on the piece. Gravs was the most, at the time, small. There's somebody who would decorate their whole bong with the logos. I was like, this isn't my style. So I had a huge collection that lived under my sink. And everyone knew when they would come to my house that I smoked, and I would bring them out for various people. You bring out a crazy one, or I had a 2-foot tall upline, which is like one that kind of looks like a sitar.
How many bongs did you have, Esther?
Oh man, I probably at one point had 10 that I would rotate through for people because I'm also very particular about how dirty they get. And so if it would get too dirty, I'd take it out of rotation, bring in a new thing, and we would use that. So I clean my pieces almost every other use, every other day. I'll use one for a day. But I was in the process, it was just getting made fun of essentially, that like you would never know that I smoked weed, even though I worked for a company and talked about it a lot. And that was really where our first foray into sessions started, of how do you find a piece that feels more like home goods, that feels like it could fit in a woman who at the time was approaching her 30s and was curating everything in her home, but yet I have a 2-foot tall crazy bong, which was fun for guests, but it wasn't really something that I could use every day. It was difficult to clean. I had a beautiful little chandelier percolator that just had one piece of weed stuck in perks that I could never get out, and it just infuriated me. So I wanted something that was easy and I could use frequently. I could leave it out on my coffee table and it would blend in. It wouldn't exactly, the verbiage that we used was and really hyper focused on the shapes and the connotations you have for that.
One of the things I wanted to do was walk through the parts of a bong, starting at the bottom and working up to the mouthpiece. As I started to map that out and sketch things out in terms of like, this called this, I'm like, okay, Session Goods bong doesn't have a splash guard or an ice pinch. Bong doesn't have a percolator or an ash catcher. I'm like, that's because all those things make it harder to clean. I think that was the thinking there. The more parts, you're not going to get it clean. So I am curious. They're not essential. I'd still like to go through the parts of the bong, but that really struck me. And to hear you say that you had a piece of a nug stuck, that makes sense because that's what and knowing that you really like to have a clean bong, you don't want to leave any crevices unaccounted for.
I just wanted something I could plug and clean. When approaching it, we definitely have people who doubt the smoothness of the hit without having all these other features.
Never doubt it. It's amazing.
Never doubt.
Yeah, that's great.
Ultimately, what makes the bong nice is just water filtration. Anything else is usually just amusing for someone to be smoking, and it slows it down further and maybe makes a nice noise. A lot of it is just sensory, not necessarily to the overall experience and like the smoothness of the hit. So for us, it was like, yeah, you can customize, you can add other things on it. I just put ice in my bong without an ice pinch. It's just in there. But I wanted something I could just dump out and keep clean, because honestly, a clean hit is going to feel nicer than having a hit go through 5 percolators that are moldy.
Okay, so the mouthpiece, I do want to go through the parts, but the 2 parts to me that I want to discuss are the size of the bowl piece and the size of the mouthpiece. What I've read about, and we'll get to the history of bongs too, because Session Goods has a very good blog article that makes it clear this way of consuming flower or plants has been around since ancient times. I do want to go through those starting at the bottom. We can talk about the downstem. I guess my questions are, as a product designer myself, how did you choose the diameter of the base? Does that have something to do with the appropriate amount of water? Too much water, the neck isn't slender enough, then you're inhaling water. Like, how did you go through those dimensions to come up with the final form of the bong, the Session Goods bong?
So when we first started, I had a list of must-haves. My business partners are industrial designers by trade. Pairing with my industry knowledge, we were looking at what was selling on Bilibee, what were the right price points. With weed becoming more potent, we were looking at smaller pieces. Things were trending downward. At the time, dabbing was just getting started and there were no e-rigs. So people were using something multi-purpose. For us, we wanted 10 inches as the max height. So that was like, it has to be 10 inches. I didn't have a solution, but the downstems extruding from the bong is such a like quintessential piece. So I wanted something that would obscure and obstruct the vision of the bowl. That's where the indent eventually evolved. And I had a really beautiful wine decanter that had a similar shape, like a little bit heavier on the bottom, and it leaned up nicely. It was intended to be the same diameter as a candle. So it would sit in a bath tray quite easily. And that was let's try this base. Let's make it conical so it doesn't knock over. I'm incredibly clumsy. It's okay, it's going to self-center. That's also the reason the downstem is protected inside of the piece, because I would break that pretty frequently, that arm, sitting it down. And the base of it, the silicone is also intended to protect it, but mark where the water line should be filled to so that you don't have that splashback or that flood in the bowl. Because our piece is unique in the amount of water that you need, but because of the volume of the chamber, you need to take it slow.
Okay.
It can creep up on you.
Okay. Yeah. There are trade-offs, right? I use your bong on a regular basis, and I have not inhaled water because you've made it pretty user-friendly in terms of this is the line, this is where you fill it up to. And I guess I've been doing it long enough where I don't feel like I'm like, breathing. Yeah.
And the little percolators at time, you pull water in there when you're filling it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get everything where it needs to be in the water lines for everything. So it was like, if you were coming back into cannabis, how do we give you something that already answers all those questions and has a lot of built-in accessibility?
What do you mean by that? So you mean you're coming back into cannabis, meaning if you used to smoke out of bongs?
Yeah, I would look at it more as coming back into Bongs specifically, because I feel like from my previous experience, I'm trying to rebrand that dirty college experience of frat party, random bong, or a 4-foot roar. And I think it took me years to realize I didn't have to inhale all of it in one go. I just could never do that, and I'd end up choking. So it was like, no, you can take it slow. You can take in breaths along the way and sip on it. You don't have to do what the girls on Instagram are doing. That's like special talents.
Lots of practice.
But it is, exactly, in capacity. I don't have that lung capacity. But I wanted something that would be approachable. So if you maybe came, let's just say you moved into California and they're like, I never had a dealer somewhere else. I have legal weed here. I'm going to get my card. At the time, it was medicinal still. So I was like, I'm going to get my card. And a lot of my friends had a little hand pipe. And when the packs came out, that was a big one for them. And so this was a sense of, no, actually, the hand pipe is a much harsher experience when you're smoking. People were afraid because they got so messed up on these massive bongs back in the day that they were hesitant to go into it. So this is actually something that is, you can control how it works. You can control the amount that you're taking in, you can control the hit a lot more, and it's actually significantly smoother because of that water filtration and cooling before it hits your throat. A lot of that education comes with the shapes. If you have all these ash catchers and it looks like this massive science experiment, people are going to think they need to have a lot more experience before willing to try it. They're like, that's going to mess me up.
It's true. The simplicity makes it more approachable.
And it looks like your water base.
So I understand now where you came up with the dimension for the bottom. The dimension for the bowl piece, you have 3. Okay.
Two. We have the one hitter.
You have a one hitter, and then you have a party bowl, or you call it the large.
The party bowl, but it is my personal bowl.
It just depends on who's smoking, and including what day it is for them too, right? Not everyone consumes the same amount at the same time. Or to your point, what are you smoking? What's the potency? I really like to mix different flower, right? So I'll take CBD and I'll take some THC. I've started doing that more just because I like the full high. There's something about CBD that I poo-pooed for a long time, but I really appreciate. And the party bowl allows you to continue just to enjoy consuming because it is fun without having to keep repacking the bowl. How did you come up with those dimensions? Was it you just, okay, this is a good size for me individually? What was their input? I'm curious how you came up with those sizes.
So when we launched, it was just the one size bowl, the party bowl. I'm probably I consume the most on a weekly basis. And that for me was like, this is the perfect size. It's similar portion to, it's 25 millimeter in external diameter. It felt really nice in your hand when you were picking it up. And then we have the little bowl tab that came with it, so you're not touching the hot glass. But that to me was like, this is the perfect size for what I needed. After we launched, my business partners were like, you know what, sometimes my partner only smokes green, and we would love to have a little bit of a smaller piece. So that way we can just a lot of people will use it for like snap bowls where you will light and then pull all of it through the hole, and others will still corner it because they're going to ease into it. But that one hitter bowl was a year 2 iteration on the piece. And since it's been a really nice option for people, we find it's very like you're one or the other.
Okay. Yeah. If you're sharing, some people just want a freshie and they want a small hit. Yeah. So that's how I'm surprised. I thought that the larger bowl would have come later, but that's where it started. And then you scaled down. Okay. That's interesting. There's obviously been trends in that direction in cannabis at large in terms of people's eyes being bigger than their stomach, right?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, so then the mouthpiece. That is so personal in terms of what you like, what you prefer, what works for you. I would love to know what you were testing, which products you were testing, and how you came to that size. Yeah. And the shape.
So I had a few different pieces that were smaller that you would press your lips up against. I wore a lot of lipstick. So there's the angled aspect of the mouthpiece. We wanted it to meet you so that you wouldn't have to hold over on the piece. But then there's also the idea of if you're smoking with a group, you don't necessarily want your lips on everything. So we wanted it to go around where your base would be. So that way you're not getting potentially lipstick or chapstick or any of that stuff. I'm not saying that still get a mouthpiece if you're smoking with a group, but
get the alcohol wipes,
well,
whatever you've got handy. Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted something that was going to sit on the external aspect of the mouth. And so that was really where it went out. I had a Grav Labs like 18-inch beaker bong, and I really liked the width of the mouthpiece, which is, I believe it's about 18 millimeters.
Got it. So I want to get into the history of Bong and the, to be careful with the word piece, but the blog piece talks about a couple of highlights. So I'm going to read parts of the blog piece, then we'll edit in our audio here. I really want to talk about Empress Dowager Chi-Chi. She preferred bongs over the alternatives. We both know people, you're one of these people that prefers a bong over any other way to consume. And we never hear about women in particular, like preferring a bong. So this is, why couldn't there be a woman in the 1800s that really preferred to consume out of a bong? So I appreciated knowing that. Yeah. And that was interesting to me. Do you know anything else about her?
Not too much about, I know historically on the border of China and Pakistan, there was a lot of cannabis use in rituals as you were burying people in mourning rituals. So we knew it was a part of their culture and they were building pieces. And they believed that because of the prevalence of opium, that kind of like a bong or a hookah style piece was relatively common. So she mostly was of the time. She just really loved those bongs to be buried with her favorite pieces. But it becomes personal. Those things that bring you comfort and relaxation, they do become, people name them, they personify the pieces as they're growing.
Did you have a name for any of your 10, or do you have a name for yours now?
No, I never really got that path. So I still have 10 bongs. They're just all session bongs, which is probably a little crazy.
Nice.
But
no, you have to represent.
Yeah.
I can see all of them.
Have your own.
That's also cool. Do you have 6 bongs on the table when you have friends over?
I'll have a dinner party, and this person will have a matching bong placement. It is fun to see. You can be in a large group, but not everybody's at the same pace. We're usually consuming alcohol as well. I have certain friends that don't drink at all. And so the friends that don't drink don't want to feel like they're constantly waiting for somebody to hand them a bong. So it's like, we all have one. You have your own color. Yeah. It matches your place setting.
I'm learning so much from you right now. The other thing I was surprised about in the article on bongs is that we think the word bong comes from a Thai word pronounced exactly like bong, but it is spelled differently. The thinking is that word came over with troops from the Vietnam War. I'm shocked that hasn't been substantiated because that history isn't that long ago. Exactly when this word entered into our vernacular.
I think it's also tied with the hippie movement. That's really where the beginning of what we know as the glass bong really came into context. It's used to describe a piece of bamboo that had been hollowed out that people could use to smoke with. With the amount of troops that were over in Asia during that time and the amount of Vietnamese people who were fleeing the country as well, that culture was brought over and then really modernized through modern glass blowing techniques in the 60s and 70s, that the people who were overseas looking for comfort or finding this plant overseas when they come back and they're feeling disenfranchised because of a war that no one wanted to be in, and they were following the Grateful Dead, that they would be evolving these things beyond it as well.
Yeah, so Bob Snodgrass he revolutionized this way of consuming thanks to glass evolving and his interest in it and really taking it to the next level. And one of the ways he customized the glass was fuming, adding metal to the glass. And I was curious if there's any other type of technique that you've seen used to decorate bongs, because yours Session Goods bongs are clear glass, and then you had a limited edition 2-piece collection, which was like a smoky glass, which is super cool, and then clouded white glass, so smoky gray, clouded white, both sold out. be on alert. Definitely pick one up next time because they sold out fast. What are some other techniques that you've seen with glass? Whimsical. It can be fun. I'm just curious what you've seen that you like.
This is why Champs is fun. Beyond the trade show, there's a massive glass blowing competition that happens during the trade show. So you can actually see the artists who are making custom rods and really evolving the medium and the colors that are available. Historically, it's pretty difficult to make reds. Bob Snodgrass was one of the first people to make a red heat-tempered glass, which is really cool, and evolving from there. I'm really into... in the future session, I really want to get more into using some of the like traditional glassware, the CB2 like ribbed cups, things that are more like cut glass mimicked. That's something that I think would be interesting texturally for us. But in the realm of color, after doing the designer series, we called it, which is the monochrome, we've been looking at doing different releases of those monochrome colors. I can't talk too much about it, but over 420, we have a really special collaboration that's coming out with Weed Feed that is embracing a new method of coloring glass, which allows a lot more variation in the ability to color it without having harmful chemicals or anything that would impact your body.
When I saw that he was adding metal to the glass, I thought, okay, maybe a lighter isn't going to get it hot enough where it's really going to hurt you, but probably lighting any metal on fire and inhaling is not a great idea.
There's a lot of people that will say that smoking out of metal is not great. I know the fuming is not as intense as smoking out of those little China metal pieces.
The aluminum one-hitter.
If you smoked out of a beer can, you're probably going to be fine smoking a fumed pipe, but should you?
And not on the regular, right? Yeah. Like in a pinch, do what you got to do. But yeah, no. So 420, so that is far away, but we'll be here before we know it. So I will patiently wait. And then the other things that were brought up in the article really had more to do with the shape of the mouthpiece and how you settled on that. Because what you said, it wasn't about lipstick. It's like yours doesn't make feel like I'm going to end up with a hickey. It gets the suction. It is physics, for God's sakes. And if that is off, then your lips are trapped in there while you're anyway. Yes. So that doesn't have
the angle helps.
Yeah. You're not like fully popping your face off. Was there anything else that you want to add or make sure that we share? We're going to wrap up because I want to be cognizant of the time. But this is going to be like a special, piece, because I'm not airing anything during the summer. We took summer break while I'm working on Johnny, which is a cannabis recommendation app that I'm launching with Raven Duckett. She's out of Oakland, and the app store, we're still going back and forth, but it should be in there next week. Fingers crossed.
Is this in relation to the event that you were doing in Oakland?
Yeah.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. So the app is finally launching. So I'm focused on that this summer and just taking kind of a hiatus, which sometimes podcasts do. But I wanted to put something fun out for the summer. So this will go out this month. Is there anything that you want to alert our listeners of? Definitely share what you're smoking in your bong at the moment. I would love to know that. Yeah.
I tend to lean towards indicas in the manner of the way that I need to consume in my current job. I am not, when I'm doing highly creative things and I'm like art direction, illustrator, things like that, I love to be high for that. I feel like I really focus in on the details, but when I'm dealing with a government website, I do not want to be high. In my current role, I've leaned more towards the indicas, sativas on Saturdays for cleaning, but I am actually smoking a home grow from one of my employees, brought some down from Big Bear. So it has been a fun little test, but my favorite is probably Pure Beauty in terms of consistent branding. Woman owned, trying to support the community, and the product's always consistent. So it's my go-to if I'm buying from a dispensary.
Got it. For the homegrown weed, and I use that word on purpose because I was just sent some pink kush, which is easy to find in Canada, not so easy to find here, and it is an amazing strain. And I just had a friend send me some seeds, and he's April. It's a weed. Just put it in a pot and put it in the sun. I'm curious, is that what we're talking about at Big Bear, or does she have an elaborate system set up?
They have a little grow shed they're working with, but it's more for cultivation for personal and close friends, not necessarily a make and a go of it kind of thing. Okay. But I definitely have, I've wanted to try, I've never grown anything on my own. I've never tried on my own, but that's something I'm like, I've gotten a couple seeds now. Maybe let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try it in a way that isn't not making it too difficult on myself. That's worked for enough people. And I know that smoking what you grow the connection that you have with that plant, and a flower that's given to you from someone that has grown it themselves. That experience, it transcends. So is that what you found with this flower?
It was definitely the one that we felt through, even throughout the weekend. We had a few different strains that everybody brought some, and we were doing a round table. We all just kept coming back to hers. But I do think it is that there's a sense of personalization and importance that you put on something, that the amount of work that's gone into it. We've seen her, I go through this process and kind of talk about her learnings experience. And also she's just a vast wealth of knowledge of the plant, the history, how everything needs to be grown. It was sitting there listening to her TED Talk while she explains. It's like, I used to work in a bar, so it's like when you have a master distiller come in and tell you about all of the things that they considered into like why it smells a certain way, or how sun impacts this specific grow, how long it was aged. All of those things make it feel more special. And I really think that was part of what comes through when you're a little heartwarming every time I use it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fun. I really do feel like growing it, it will allow me to gift it. Like I've got mushrooms, and I've started this Sunday, I made some mushroom chocolates. And a friend of mine, I went to a concert last night, which is why my throat, I think, is what, because we were screaming, trying to talk to each other, hooks up with this guy. He's a drummer for Thundercat, and they are traveling with the Strokes and Red Hot Chili Peppers. He was in town, and he was, maybe I would like some shows. He called me up. I'm like, I actually just made these chocolates. Come over. That is a crazy gift. Someone's visiting your city. You happen to have this. It's not just, oh, I bought these mushrooms. Here's a baggie. Oh, I made this treat for you. You grew it. You put time into it. So yeah, I was feeling pretty proud of myself. So in some ways, I want to grow the flower just to be able to give it away. People love free weed. They love free drugs, I guess you should say. But anyway.
I was like, I love giving. We gift a lot. That is a big part of brand customer acquisition. We're like, if I give one person a piece, then they're going to tell all their friends. When we're not able to advertise in the same ways as other businesses, you have to, it's that warmth and that kind of in-person use. You can feel the love. Once you see it in person, online, it's all fake until.
You have to trust that the right people will say the right things, and that energy gets passed around, and then they'll come back to wanting their own session goods piece, for sure.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But in terms of plants, we don't have too much happening, just getting back settled in. We're looking at some options to round out our line a bit more when it comes to feelings of coziness and relaxation within your home and your space. So keep an eye out, probably around the fall, October and November, those things will be released. Next year is where we've got a lot of banner products launching. It takes us a little time just to get the samples, edit, adjust, and grow. We released our one hitter last year, but that was the last piece that you could consume with that we released. And next year is our next big push into some other items that you can actually consume with.
I saw someone using your one hitter as a joint holder, and I thought that was super clever. Had you probably thought of that when you designed it, but anyway, I hadn't thought of it. Yeah.
So the one hitter will also, it's a 10 mil joint size, so you can also smoke that joint through your bong, should you want to.
Oh,
so
okay. I need to spend more time on your, I need to spend more time on your social. You've got all this on there, showing people how to use it.
It's really important to us when we look at the products that we're releasing almost as an ecosystem. So as each piece is released, it has to interact with one or two other items in the line already before we bring it out. So that's, you've got your bowl stands and the ashtray and the stash jars and all of the down stems and the pieces that can fit inside that stash jar too. So it's really like finding, we call it our secret menu, but it's these little things as you start buying something, it's much easier to continue to buy the products that we're releasing because they are all made to support the pipe and the bong, which is the pods as well. Our newest item are more keychain accessories with our little pipes. So if you need a couple backup bowls, you're good to go.
Right. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. I am going to wait till 420 to look and see what you guys release in terms of the bongs and the material, because I have my one, but I want to have a collection like you. So I'll wait and see what you come out with next.
I broke my designer one, so we got to watch out.
It was bound to happen, but of course it's the designer one that sold out. Even the CEO is like, damn it.
I don't have, I broke my black one, but my wedding bong is the white one, and so I still have that one.
Was that the inspiration to have an all-white bong? Did it happen to coincide?
Well, initially we were supposed to have a bong bar at our wedding when we were getting married in San Francisco, and COVID happened. So we ended up 2 years later doing a destination wedding in New Orleans this past spring. So the Bong bar got nixed, but the bongs everyone got still came out.
Wow. Of all the things that you had to compromise on, that's a bummer, I can imagine, for you. Yeah.
We still got
You
to
survived.
share.
Everyone still had fun.
Yeah. We still
Yeah.
got to share it. There was still weed.
Yes. Nice. Congratulations.
Thank
You
you.
are a newly married woman. So that's great. Thanks for your time. I'll let you know as I listen to it and look at the transcripts and write out the piece, but it'll be toward the end of the month because we're already August 4th. It'll take me a couple of weeks to do that. So
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you so much for having me. This is
yeah,
fun.
I'm glad that the video worked out. It's been nice to see your face.
My internet is historically crappy, so I kicked my husband out
Yeah.
so he couldn't use
Oh.
the Wi-Fi.
My kids aren't here.
I was like, walk the dogs for an hour. I don't want to hear barking.
Nice. My dog's now gone too. Have a great day. Good luck with
Thank you so
everything
much.
and with the wrap up from Champs and getting ready for the next release.
Big orders, hopefully.
Talk to you later. Bye, Esther.
Bye.